let me get Daniel to come in before we take closing comments from Sushant and Seema. Daniel, what do you expect the Canadians to be doing next? Because like we said, the Trudeau didn't offer any evidence. He spoke about an investigation that's ongoing. Then he expelled an Indian diplomat basis an ongoing investigation. The Western powers that he's reached out to are going to say, show us the proof. Let's even war game this, using that phrase loosely, colloquially. Let's even hypothesize and say, okay, he offers something and he says, this is the proof. India has already dismissed this allegation. So, unless there's some sort of clinching, impeccable sort of intelligence, then if he had that, wouldn't he have placed it before Parliament?
Yeah, this is where a lot of Canadians are with him is, and you have to understand, this makes a lot of sense. If you're going to start a fight with an ally, a democratic ally who shares similar alliances with you, and you're going to start a fight based on an incident, and you have, if you're going to go to the international community, go to the Americans, the Italians, the British, everyone we trade with mutually, and say, hey, India's the bad guy because they did this. All the allies are going to ask, okay, how do you know that? And if you can't show them, here's the email from Modi, CC, assassination of Singh Nijjar, please kill him in Canada right now. Like, if you can produce that, then...
I'm just laughing because obviously there's no such,
Yeah, but Trudeau sort of claimed got it. And there's more context here to the Canadians is we've seen evidence. So, I mean, right now, the Canadian perspective, what's happening in Canada is this is really a story of Pakistani foreign interference being framed as a story of Indian interference when the real story at the time is Chinese interference. So this is Canada. So in the Chinese interference scandal, we had the proof. We had CSIS, our intelligence, trying to leak to the public. Here's the proof that a Chinese sitting diplomat was threatening the family of a sitting MP for being critical of, Beijing's aggression. Threatening his family. We had the proof. It took us a week as a country to collectively scream at Melanie Joly, Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland. There was tracking Twitter things, still in Canada. So we had the proof that he was harassing people. And it took us like over a week to get this guy kicked out of Canada. And there was evidence that he was harassing a sitting MP's family. So I've seen Justin Trudeau look at hard evidence of foreign interference from a hostile power and be like, no, it's all good. But now we have secret evidence that we're all supposed to start a fight with India over.
Yeah, I want to pick up that last line of yours, Seema. Pakistani interference framed as Indian interference when the real problem is Chinese interference. And we all know the Hudson Institute has an excellent study on the linkages between Pakistan and the Khalistan groups operating out of North America, operating out of countries like Canada and the US. Seema, go ahead.
So, yes, the experts in all these capitals know the ISI is behind a lot of this propaganda that comes out of a very few Khalistan supporters. So whenever there's a protest in Washington, at least, they're about the same 20 people who will come outside the Indian embassy. It's not as if the 1 million Sikhs in America are with them. They're not. The politics of the gurdwaras is very intense. But I want to make one larger point. Just think about who benefits from this whole episode. It's China, right? If they're able to drive even a bit of a wedge between India and the West, or loosely the G7 or whatever, because India is getting closer to them, it benefits them. And the ISI is the cat's paw for all this kind of stuff. So that's something I worry about. Because reputationally, as and when Trudeau comes up with whatever kind of evidence he has, India will have suffered a little bit of reputational damage, right? Because yes, Sushant is exactly right. When they assassinate people, the West assassinates people, takes out enemies of the state in other countries, nobody bats an eyelid because, they go and kill people in Iran or Afghanistan. Nobody bats an eyelid.
Or Pakistan. Let's not forget Osama.
It's taken for granted that their cause is right. These are real terrorists. So let's see how that works.
That's an excellent point, Sushant. Very briefly, closing comment. China trying to drive a wedge here. Are we missing the real adversary?
I don't know if China is trying to drive a wedge in this whole thing or Justin Trudeau is trying to do it. Because who's blown this up? Trudeau has.
Yeah.
And I agree with what Seema is saying, that look, the bigger game is this whole, this monster called China, which is sitting on everybody's borders, right? Uh, and if Justin Trudeau, for whatever reason, for his domestic politics or whatever other reason, he wants to blow apart this relationship, okay, fine, go ahead, do it for whatever it's worth. We'll see how the chips fall where they will. Secondly, Barkha, I do not disagree with what Ambassador Singh is saying. In fact, I would go back to 2005 when the Akali and BJP had formed the government, and the first posters of Bhindranwale and all these other characters started appearing in the gurdwaras in Punjab. That was the time to put your foot down. So I trace it back not to 2015. And in fact, the Sacha Sauda fellow had, committed some stupidity earlier as well, when there was a huge uproar, and that was before 2015. Yeah. There was a huge uproar even at that point of time. So that has been happening. But our domestic problems should have certainly been handled better. And I'm not absolving anybody of what has happened out here. But to conflate or to explain away the kind of dissemble and deception and kind of actions or the inaction of the Canadian government, which seems to be hand in glove with some of these characters. This wasn't the problem under Stephen Harper, was it?
Yeah.
But how come when Trudeau has come, suddenly these guys have come out of the woodwork and...
I think Casey is wanting to come in briefly, and then I'll let Sushant close. Yeah, Casey?
No, Sushant, the implication is that I'm saying I'm absolving the Canadian government. No, I'm not. I'm saying keep your house in order and pin them down where you want to pin them down and anticipate it. Barkha, you're asking what should we have done? When the street protests were taking place after June the 18th, it was quite clear that was the narrative on the streets in Vancouver, that the Indian government, why do you think they attacked the Indian missions? We should have been proactive after that. We should have realized that this is the narrative that's building up. We should have anticipated that here is a loose cannon called Trudeau, and he may just mishandle it further. You see, diplomacy and anticipation are two sides of the same coin. Diplomacy, keep waiting till Trudeau does something stupid, and then you start jumping up and down. This has been clear for 3 months that this narrative was on its way.
Okay, the implications are real. We have BookMyShow cancelling the Canadian Indian singer Shubh for positions he's taken, maps he's shown on his Instagram feed. So these are things that you never thought would really happen between India and Canada. They're beginning to happen. Sushant, I'll let you have the closing word with a reminder to our audience that when Trudeau came in 2018 to India, he pretty much did the same. This is Trudeau's act over and over and over and over again. He supped then with Atwal, if you remember, another Khalistani. So, Sushant, closing word.
Yeah, it's, I think Canada is unfortunate to have Trudeau as its prime minister. He screwed up their economy completely and messed up their foreign relations and their internal security. And India is unfortunate that, there is a Canadian prime minister like Trudeau who has spoiled relations. See, if Trudeau thinks that he can wear those nice flashy kurtas and, jiggle around a little bit, we'll be very impressed. That's not going to happen. Maybe he has a very, colonial kind of a thinking about what India is, that you come out here and you shake your butt a bit and everybody will fall in love with you. I'm sorry, we moved on from there. So maybe he needs to wake up to what India is all about. It's not the India where, a white man would come and speak in Hindi and everybody would, be gushing over the guy and saying that, oh, wow, he's such an Indophile. Sorry, now let's talk business, right? Yeah. Do you protect my security? What do you bring on the table? What do I bring on the table? That is the way things have to be conducted. And I agree once more with what Ambassador Singh is saying. Although I say that the Indian government has constantly plugged this issue with the Canadians, maybe we should now start doing it far more publicly. Maybe we should bring out some kind of a white paper, if at all, and I'm talking very loosely out here, about all the representations we have made, all the protests we have launched, everything, so that, it's out there in open that, look, this is what we've been agitating for. And there has been virtually no action from the Canadian side. They've been doing this virtue signaling of freedom of speech and freedom of conscience, as though calling for the genocide of Hindus in Canada is freedom of conscience.
Yeah, I just...
What do you say?